Quack. Well then, I'm your host, Adam Shamel.
And I'm Aaron Shutter.
That is right, and this is the Quack 12 podcast, the most unofficial Oregon Ducks footing ball podcast in the web footosphere. And Aaron,
let's talk about pudding ball.
Well, first of all, it starts with a ball full of pudding. You are covered in pudding. You're also playing in a pool of pudding, and it's usually a solo game. But Aaron, let's also talk about football, college, if you will, of the college variety. We played a game, and we looked good doing it, and we kicked some freaking butt. That's my take. What do you got to say?
Yeah, that's about right. This game looked like what I expected of the first two games. And therefore this is how my thinking went. Okay, we're going into our actual rivalry. Let's do this. It's all weird. Let's be serious though, because this is a serious game. And then did we have the ball first or did they?
I want to say we scored first.
I remember we scored first, but who got the ball first?
Actually, you know what? I got it right here. I forgot this, but they had it. They were marching down the field. This is one of their. They had like 3 really successful drives. One of them,
and we stopped them.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this one you could say is not successful because it was 11 plays, 49 yards, about 5 minutes, and then a missed field goal.
Yeah. Okay, so they had the ball first. So basically they got the ball, didn't do nothing with it.
We blocked it.
We got the ball. Actually, no, he hit his own man.
He did,
schlub.
But technically it says we got a block. So
we're taking it.
I think if Mateo even wasn't there, it still would have been blocked.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So then we get the ball, we score.
Hell yeah.
They get the ball, and then they score. So just from that, I went, okay, well, it looks like as long as the ratio is every time we get the ball, we score, and every other time they get the ball, they score, we win the game. So I don't feel at all bad about this. And then literally the rest of the game, I just enjoyed watching a team do exactly what I expected to see them do the whole time.
Exactly.
Which made me feel really great because my thought there was maybe they'll actually go back up in the rankings now. Did they?
No.
Cool.
I'm kind of fine with that. Because we're still a top 10 team.
You think 9 though, brother?
We looked pretty bad those first 2 weeks. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, well,
I'm down with being a little under the radar and still being top 10. That's a good spot.
Fine. Fair. Yeah,
you can
keep
still
our
get
heads
to number 1.
9 is respectable because it's like that's on us. We should have had that figured out already.
Yeah, exactly. We started out 3. We started out pretty freaking hot.
But anywho, this game, it's great to see Oregon State cry. And the potato salad bowl thing is gross. I hate all of them.
Yeah, you ever
that whole brand is trash.
I was about to ask.
It's so bad.
It's pretty bad. It's pretty bland.
Yeah. It's got a chemically taste to it that is unappealing to me.
That's the thing, because sometimes you want like a mac salad or a potato salad that is pretty bland tasting. Well, I was gonna say bland because it's a nice like palate cleanser with like, I just ate some, pulled pork. Now I'm gonna eat some lifeless mac salad. That's what that game was for the Beavers. Lifeless Mac Salad.
Oh, brother, yes.
So
Wow, we had a full-on, like,
Oh.
a half stack of ribs,
Mm.
order a brisket, couple sausages and Dewey.
That great Texas barbecue. What do you know about Texas barbecue?
Greens.
Is Texas known?
I know a little bit about a lot. Yeah.
Okay. Would other people make?
Is Texas good at barbecuing?
Well, like if I said that to someone from Tennessee, would they be like, "No, they suck at it"?
No.
Should I not get you started on this? You look like
I mean, this is a deep topic. Okay, look, everybody's barbecue is almost dependent on their sauce.
Is there dry rub though?
Such is not the case in Texas. Texas barbecue is about the meat sauce on the motherfucking side.
Okay.
Because this is about making good meat. Anyway,
so if you had a beaver.
So honestly, here's the deal. Everybody knows that Texas barbecue is the best.
Oh my God.
Every other person who thinks that theirs is better is either A, foolish, or just not, willing to give up state pridehood, which I totally get.
Oh my, you can take the boy out of Texas, but you can't take Texas out of the boy. Oregon is known for having terrible and few options in barbecue.
Oh, brother, Seattle is lifeless here. There was a food truck called Campfire Barbecue, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
It was the best. The best.
Hey, they're sponsoring the show today. They're probably not around anymore, are they?
No, not at all.
Our second touchdown was the 43. No, wait. It was a very, 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 very long.
Very, very, very long touchdown.
Dylan Gabriel touchdown run.
Oh, baby. That was
54-yard
so
run.
Sick. That was so sick.
That felt like, okay, officially everything is like, this is, if you give Dylan Gabriel a little bit of space, a little bit of time, then suddenly he's a world beater. Like he made his first, I forget exactly, but like 15 completions or something like that.
Can we get into some shit that maybe we don't really need to get into, but absolutely. I just got to ask it.
It's the Quackville podcast. We just talked about Texas barbecue.
Did you take note of his stride?
No, I guess not.
Yeah, me neither. Well, only because I meant to. And
why did you bring it up? I mean, he looked like he was the fast. I wonder who was faster, him or Bo Nix.
Oh,
I'd like to see that. Like his style. I mean, he was pretty smooth. He was pretty quick. Basically went untouched, but also that little like pitch option worked like a freaking charm. That guy was sold on him gonna pitch it. And and that's the kind of running we want to do, and it seems like landing is because you remember back in the day with Cristobal after the really terrible collarbone injury to Herbert, he really didn't want to run Herbert like at all.
Right.
And it felt like most of the time he didn't really want his QBs actually running, picking up a bunch of yards. Maybe a little bit more with Anthony Brown and with like Herbert in the Rose Bowl, he finally unleashed it. It seems like with Lanning, he's more like, I don't want my QB running unless it's completely freaking open grass. Like, I don't think he's actually drawing up a play where he's like, every once in a while, I think they are, but he's like, I don't think it's very regularly. He's like, and this Dylan Gabriel is the primary runner. Though in that play, they clearly saw something where they were just like, we don't think that they think that we are down with Dylan Gabriel running. So we're going to have the option. And so they just were glued to, I think it was Jordan James. Maybe it was Noah Whittington. I forget. And so he was just completely clear the whole way. Just really good ball, just kicked ass. We're the best. Second half defense got a lot better too.
Let me ask you this. Is it because did we look the way we thought we were supposed to look because we've done something with our offensive line officially now that it is more standardized and everybody understands their roles and how it works? Or is it that Oregon State is actually just kind of trash at defense.
Good question.
Because
in
it
theory,
looked polar opposite. It's like no sacks.
In theory, Oregon State, it may be more like because in the first 2 games that they played, their offense didn't look that good, but their defense did well against not great teams.
Right, because they won both games, right?
Yeah, but and they kept the point total from the defense. So it's like the Beavs are strongest on defense. That doesn't mean they have like a top tier defense or anything necessarily.
Because I mean,
but
our defense, you can't touch it. We're unmatchable.
Well, they touched it twice, 2 touchdowns. No, but we looked great.
No, those don't count. That's whatever, dude. We have the most insane dude. Who's that?
Well, to answer your question, I want to say really quickly. The O-line. So that was the same O-line order that we were going with starting in the second half of the Boise State game. So it's basically a new because it's we got the walk-on out of there. Right. So now we got the center, our right guy, our Poncho, who was playing right guard. He's now back at center. Which is
okay, that's what I was seeing.
Yeah, and then Strother came back in there, and he was playing, I believe, left guard, and then right guard was Harper, and that seems to be the order. And I don't think and especially, I think the really telling thing was in the second half of the game when it was getting out of hand. When it got into garbage time, even Dante Moore was out there. We were changing out a lot of the people playing, except our O-line. We kept the same O-line in, as far as I know, every single snap because it was more important for us to gel with them than get backup. It's like we've got enough backup like snap.
Right.
We've
tried them all.
Yeah. And I think it made a very clear difference because even if Oregon State's not that good, we just played against Idaho and Boise State, and they had a ridiculously for them good time in our backfield. Like they were just destroying us. In this one, no sacks. He was given time, and we got a lot of rushing yards, like our most amount of rushing yards. So it's definitely that our O-line, which we found the right 5.
We're gelling, baby. We're doing it. Exactly. Okay, the season is officially started, Adam. Let's go.
Woo! I know, that's what it feels. Now, time for a bye week.
Yeah. Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh.
So we don't play this week.
Unfathomable.
But Matthew Bedford, another transfer, like upperclassman offensive lineman, he could have played. He was dressed, ready to go if we needed them, but he didn't. But it's good that it's like we have a bye week and then UCLA, so he's got even more time to gel within that group and get healthy. So that's really good. The other injury, Jeffrey Bassa, who's like our captain of our defense.
Right.
It sounds like he was just sitting out because they're like, we'd like for him to play the least amount of snaps.
Yeah.
If we can get away with it. He didn't play many at all. But he could have.
And we got away with it.
And we got away with it, which is what you want. And Bryce Betcher, the guy who's going to the baseball, Major League Baseball, he got drafted. He looked great. He's the dude with the neck roll and the big old white guy was tackling everybody.
I knew there was the dude on defense. His name starts with a B, and he's
Bryce
like
Betcher,
and he's a walk-on.
It's kind of weird. I guess he was, but I think the thing is he had a scholarship from playing baseball, and so he didn't. And so technically he may be a walk-on for us for like a scholarship count. And the cool thing is, like, he is a local product too.
Yes.
So that's a feel-good story.
I mean, I don't know if
he
was getting his hands in there so good and just like blink.
Oh yeah.
He's kind of my favorite guy right now.
I'll tell you this, a lot of people gravitate towards the hard-hitting, not very highly rated white defensive guy, and he's that darling this year. I'll tell you that. People love, and hard to blame. I mean, he had a great game. He was fun to watch. Yeah. It's fun to bring up that he's from Eugene, Oregon, and that he's maybe going to play professional baseball. Probably going to play professional baseball. Maybe he'll get drafted in the NFL and choose that instead. Probably not, but He's
Dude.
playing like it though. He's playing it out of his mind. It was really fun to watch.
Could this kid be the white people's answer to Bo Jackson? The greatest
No.
athlete of all time?
I'll tell you that right now. No, absolutely not.
Okay.
If it is, then it's a poor answer, and they've already failed.
Well, it is the white answer.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's only ever going to be so good.
Yeah. Well, no, he's not that, but he's really fun to watch, and he's kicking ass. And he got what? 11 tackles, 11 damn tackles.
Brother, this kid, dynamite. I love him.
Eugene, Oregon's
It's hard
own.
not to.
Yeah, a local product. It's fun to watch. My friend.
Oh, also, though, I have to say,
What?
Really loved getting to watch. What is our kicker's name, Mr.
Sappington.
Yeah, Sappington. Getting to watch him kick in that stadium.
Oh yeah,
that's a treat. That's
with
fun.
all the boos coming. It reminded me of the Olympics when they were booing our team, and we were just accepting it because they hated us because we had a Frenchman, someone from well, technically, I don't know. We don't need to get into that. Aaron, we have an expert.
Uh-oh.
An expert from Addicted to Quack.
What are they doing here?
On the show, and will help us break down the future Big Ten schedule and what we saw against the Beavers in the Platte. That is Hythloday of Addicted to Quack. How you doing, Hythloday?
I'm well. How are you?
We're doing good. You know, it's one of those games where it's a pretty easy recap. One team looked better, kicked some butt, and then they won by quite a bit, and we got into garbage time. However, it was very fun to watch a fully functioning offensive line, and it kind of felt like, okay, now the season is officially starting. I mean, that's what we talked about all last week and probably the week before. Did you see any drastic improvement or even from like the second half of Boise State or do you have anything nice to say about this offensive line? Because everyone has so far,
Yeah, I mean, they certainly graded out better. They did a couple of interesting things. They didn't rotate at all, which was interesting. I mean, until they hit garbage time, and then they switched over to the second unit.
When did they switch to second unit? Because I noticed they did have them a little later than a lot of the other changes.
Let's see. They were continuing with the first unit through the 8th possession, although the fourth possession was that kneel down just before halftime. Seventh, real possession. The 8th possession is the one that ends with that that screen pass to Lamar that goes for 65 yards for a touchdown. that makes the score 46-14, which is I count when Lamar hits the end line. That's when I say garbage time begins.
That seems about right.
That's the subsequent drive. Drive 9 is when Dante Moore comes in and they switch in for the second line, and he only gets one drive because the next drive is just a couple of kneel downs. Mm-hmm. And then the Beavs get 2 offensive possessions after that point as well, which I consider to be garbage time. Tristan, his article just went up. Tristan and I differed on that. Tristan excluded one more drive than I. He excluded the Beavs 7th drive and the Ducks 8th drive in his initial charting. And then he and I talked about it, and we wound up. He came around to my point of view, basically because of when
you
the
strong-armed him.
Yeah, it sounds like you beat him up or something.
It's actually been a point of contention. Like he I try to get him to push back against me more. Like he folds too easily.
Well, it's just interesting to me to start garbage time with the team who's trying to catch up. I would think garbage time would begin with the team that's in the lead, right?
Different. There's
Maybe it
a
doesn't
bunch
matter.
of different things which can signal when garbage time begins. Like if you're doing like advanced stats formulas use, because they're not individually reviewing games, like they use a formula, that's just like the score is not within X during this quarter and Y during that quarter and blah, blah, blah. Since we're watching the film, we can look for different, because that formula is just a proxy for stuff that you can actually detect on film. You can detect when the second unit is in. You can detect when teams are playing in a non-representative way, either in desperation mode or clock killer mode, or that they're surrendered on plays. That they're not giving full effort, or they're calling plays out of a different kind of playbook. That sort of thing. You can do it in a bespoke manner. And so, like, who's got the ball? For me, it was just very clear at that point, when Oregon, crosses the line on that one, or that Oregon was still calling its full offense, and like Oregon State was giving maximum effort trying to stop Oregon from scoring on that drive, and Oregon was still operating out of the full playbook with the starters in, and so I consider that to be garbage time drive. Now, Tristan's argument, and this is where this may be interesting and not just inside baseball. Yeah. Tristan's argument was, if you watch the Beavs defense on that drive, they are exhausted. Like, whether they want to be giving maximum effort or not, I believe that they did. They couldn't. Like, they were just physically tapped, which is, the offensive line deserves, credit. They certainly played a lot better. And indeed, some of the stuff that's real head scratchers about like why guys that shouldn't have been affected by the injury situation, like Johnny Cornelius, the right tackle, you may recall after the Idaho game, I was like, why is this guy blocking badly? It doesn't make any sense. He's a returning starter, like he's not affected by this guard situation. Like, this is baffling. And then equally baffling, he blocked great. He graded out like, Oregon standard fantastic in this game. So it's like, the black swan of this, the like it breaks the model of this is because I don't understand how it got broke. I don't understand how it got fixed. So like, I don't know how to project any.
Well, is it fixed?
I don't know.
We don't know. That's what the joy of it.
That's what I'm going to here is that if you read my preview of Oregon State on Friday, what you'd know is Oregon State is by far the weakest team that Oregon is going to play this year. They're weaker than Idaho. Like, they were absolutely devastated by relegation and the coaching change, and in particular on the defensive side of the ball, and in particular on their defensive front, where they basically had nobody who played football before playing on their defensive front. And so that's sort of the grain of, like, I'm not kidding. Go read my Friday article. I mean, I tried to, read as much as I was like redlining it is, I write in sort of a circumspect manner, I know, but like, as much as I was redlining for the Idaho game, that like, these guys are a bunch of veterans and they returned everybody from an FCS playoff team, look out. I was redlining, for Oregon State. These guys have never played football before. They are totally devastated. Oregon should get off the bus and cream them. And that's what they did. I mean, they scored a touchdown or practically so, and like every time they touched the ball.
Yeah.
And so like, I'm trying to give everybody like a grain of salt. It may not be fixed. And the black swan of this is that, like, since I don't understand how it got broke, I don't understand how it got fixed, or even if it did.
It's all fixed. We're good. We're natty.
All that matters is we won, continuing to 12.
But then on top of that, I could be that note of caution that I just sounded. Even that could still be right, but then what do they got next? They got a bye week, and then they got UCLA. And then another bye. I've been doing film study on UCLA. UCLA is almost in the same situation that Oregon State is in which, thanks to Chip Kelly and some injuries, it's also true, unfortunately, like, they've run out of defensive linemen. They're using their glut of linebackers. Like, Chip Kelly really did a number on their defensive front, where they've got like 2 functional defensive linemen, but like 80 linebackers. And so they're just throwing linebackers at the problem. Well, and then look what Indiana did to them, right? Yeah. So like, and then Michigan State, where like their best 2 defensive linemen went to Miami and Oregon, like, and like, they're getting pushed around by like Maryland and FAU, so so it's like 3 more bye weeks, so that note of so that's what I'm trying to say is that like maybe it's not fixed and we still don't know, or maybe it's not fixed but it will be fixed over these 3 weeks,
right? That's what I think.
like subterraneanly. God,
it's figured out. It's just not resolved.
Maybe it's pre-figured out. Or Aaron, actually, maybe you just said a brilliant thing. Actually, say that again. Like,
I don't know what I said. I said it's not figured. It's figured out. It's just not resolved.
Like, yes, maybe the staff knows exactly what they need to do. It just hasn't. It's going to be 3 weeks before it's implemented. Like,
it's every great video game. You go, oh shit, I have to go over there. Oh boy.
Yeah, I got to go backtrack through Brimstar. Yeah.
This is our water temple. That's what Idaho was, actually. Yeah. So defensively, that's one thing to point out is like I'm totally fine with it. There's a couple lengthy drives in which you could tell the Beavers were like, yeah, we all know we're trying to run this thing. That's how we've had success in the past against this team. Let's just bleed the clock, keep their offense off, and they did have some success in the first half, especially doing that. Any defensive standouts or weaknesses that you saw that you just would like to note here?
There's a couple things to say about the defense. The first and by far most important is that yards per play and explosive plays is elite. Oregon allows, in terms of meaningful designed carries, fewer than 3.5 or about 3.5 yards per carry, which is a pathetic number for a rushing team, and allows 4.92, yards per pass attempt, which is a disgusting number. They allowed 0 explosive rushes. They allowed, I think, 1 explosive pass, in meaningful play. Basically the Beavs are, we're only moving the ball at like sort of a pathetic 4 yards a play clip. Now, sort of Oregon was letting them, and I know Oregon fans, panic about that sort of stuff. But like nobody's beating the Ducks, moving the ball 4 yards a clip. There's a couple more things to be said. Number one, a mint defensive structure is always like that's the thing that it chooses to that's their dump stat. From D&D, right? Like that, because in modern college football, that's the thing that hurts you the least. That's what they distribute resources away from in order to pay for everything else that they're good at. Number 2 is you definitely saw halftime adjustments, which Tosh Lupoi is underappreciated at doing. And the main thing that they did in terms of halftime adjustments that caused the Beavs to be that Oregon was doing in the first half, which was less effective and the Beavs were taking advantage of, but then they stopped doing in the second half and the Beavs were stopped cold, was blitzing. And if you read Tristan's article, he's got video clips of it, is where it's like, this blitz was not an effective thing to do in the first half. And then surprise, there's no blitzes in the second half and they shut them down cold. You just didn't need to blitz to get to them. And it was better to have, the extra defenders on the back end. There are some other things that Lupoi does in the second half, but that's the most noticeable and chief one is you don't need to do that, and like that's what they were sort of exploiting on the back end.
The thing that I appreciated was it seemed like many of the big Oregon State plays would be something like like QB running out of the pocket, picking up yards, or like a screenplay, which you'd like to deal with screenplays more. But like it'd be way more concerning if they're just running up the gut with a bunch of success.
Or
hitting a slant.
Their screenplays were not particularly. I mean, they had a couple 10-yard screenplays, but scrambles. They were actually more effective scrambling than they had been in the past. There's 2 more things to say. number one is McCoy, their quarterback, who I'd watched a lot of because he was Idaho's quarterback last year. And like I watched all of Idaho's film. There's like a bunch of funny connections between like all three of those teams.
He may regret leaving at the end of the season. No.
He was not really much of a scrambler. Like I didn't really see him scramble that much or run that much or use his legs that much at Idaho or in the first two games at Oregon State. And like he really showed off some wheels against Oregon. And that's not the only thing. There was actually quite a bit more diversity in Oregon State's playbook in this game than in the previous two. I actually feel not guilty about it because, I don't really have a crystal ball, but like, I feel like that's the one section of my Friday preview in which, like that article least prepared the reader for what they saw out of Oregon State in that like there was much more diversity in their offensive playbook. Like they threw the ball to more guys. I mean, it was definitely dominated by Trent Walker, the guy who I was saying he had going into that game, he had twice as many targets as every other player on the team combined. Like I was noting that they had never targeted the tight end. Well, they threw the ball to the tight end like 3 times, a couple of them very successfully. I was like, commenting to Matt Bagley, you remember that it was like, why aren't they throwing to the running back more on screen passes? They did that a bunch, in this game, so it's like I don't know if those were tendency breakers or what, but they just like, or if they were trying to rope-a-dope, Oregon, like keep stuff, hidden, or what, but like they definitely diversified more. I don't know that this is like necessarily trying to let, Lupoi off the hook or anything, but I'm just saying that like, or me off the hook for not having put it in my article. I'm just saying that like they did new stuff.
Makes sense.
And then the third thing is, or the last thing is, there were some different personnel, like Matayo Uiagalelei, who I believe is credited for that field goal deflection on their.
Yeah, he is credited. Yeah,
I don't believe I saw him from scrimmage the entire game. I don't understand why. Like I saw a ton of Blake Purchase, which somebody on some forum was like convinced that Blake Purchase wasn't playing. And I was like, do you not understand that his number is number 10? But like, that's what I'm talking about in terms of personnel usage, is that like in the first 2 games, they were very heavily rotating everybody at the OLB spot, like 5 different guys. In this game, we saw the first Jaden Moore, I believe, for the first time. Like his mom was very excited about it on Twitter. But I don't believe we saw Uiagalelei. Like I don't believe I saw 17. I don't have 17 anywhere in my notes. Which other than the blocked field goal.
Yeah.
Which I don't understand. Like I don't think he was hurt, so I don't. Beats me. I think what I did see more of was, I think Bossa is maybe dinged up and that he's on like a snap count. I saw more of Justin Jacobs. I don't quite understand it. I want more data on this question. And of course, I'm not going to get it because it's a bye week, but there's something. Oregon has a very big defensive front in terms of its playable roster, like a lot of guys at particular positions at inside linebacker and in outside linebacker / the slider of the end positions. At the big end position, Jordan Birch, he's Iron Manning it. Yeah. And they're playing a lot at the defensive tackle spots. Like we're actually seeing Green and Washington like a ton. But the inside linebacker and outside linebacker spots, they're doing funny stuff that I haven't been able to discern the pattern on. In terms of which guys are playing when. Like it's streaky is what I'm trying to say. Like instead of just sort of freely rotating or randomly rotating, like there seems to be a pattern, but I haven't been able to
like
figure
that.
I haven't been able to figure out what the pattern is yet, and it's been defying. Like I've tried throwing correlation analysis at it yet, and I don't have enough data.
Like it doesn't feel like matchup based or anything.
It probably is matchup based. I just haven't been able to crack it yet. I'm not smart enough.
Maybe someone's in the doghouse. No.
That's good,
that could be it too. I mean, like one of them, like I couldn't figure out Taisheem Johnson, not playing for a while against Idaho, and then a little birdie told me that it it might have been disciplinary. And I was like, oh, well, that's the sort of thing that I'm not going to learn unless little birdie lands on my window,
Yeah.
So, I don't know. The last thing that I wanted to say is I am still a little concerned about Jabbar Muhammad. I wasn't wild about him at Washington. I know Oregon fans like fell in love with the guy for some reason, or like hated him, or whatever.
Yeah.
Frenemied him.
That hand gesture really goes a long way.
Yeah,
I think
apparently
this game was a really interesting one because I remember at the end of this game seeing some person online or something being like, I think he was the most valuable like transfer in we got into this program, and it's like,
oh no, it's Derek Harmon. Like a million times is a Derek Harmon. Like,
well, especially because who left after, but it's also like Jabbar Muhammad. It's like he's the ultimate guy where it's like you can watch him make a highlight and it'll really stick in your head and you'll be like, oh, he's perfect, and then you'll see a play in which the opposing offense like gets some serious yardage and he's not in the screen necessarily, but it's like he should have been on your screen.
Like if you know what you're watching for, you're like, oh my god, he is way out of position. And I mean, like it's yet again that there's like several. I mean, where it's like third down conversions, the dude who's primarily responsible for the drive continuing is Muhammad, and like another guy. Not just completely dump on him, that like a lot of fans are sort of fall in love with is Devin Jackson, who like I understand why, like he's great, like when he gets it together, like his speed is incredible. He also has a very mixed grade on my tally sheet where like his great plays are great, and this was probably his best game in terms of like putting the most great plays on record, but he's also he's also out of position on a number of plays, like or his like failure to make the tackle is why a lot of plays flip from that should have been a stop for only 2 yards to they got 4 yards and it flips to being a successful play.
And that ferocious roughing the passer. I mean,
yeah, right. I mean, I guess if there's a fifth thing to say about the defense, it's like Oregon State had some drives continued because of zebras. Like there's a couple of penalties that extend drives. There's a couple, there's a play that there was a video review of in which there was called an incomplete pass on the field that I don't really think, there was incontrovertible video evidence to overturn, but the zebras gave him anyway. I don't want to belabor this or say that there was a conspiracy. I mean, it was a blowout win for the Ducks, but it's yet another, or I'm sorry, it wasn't till garbage time that there's a holding flag on Oregon, for the first of the year. I sort of feel like, it's yet another game in which Oregon and Oregon's opponent are held to different standards of officiating. And I mean, Oregon's by far not the biggest victim of this. I watched the Indiana UCLA game. It was, I mean, that game is was, I mean, comical.
They just felt bad for UCLA.
I mean, it sometimes feels like I don't think you need to believe in conspiracy theories, or anything. I think that humans are just, refs are human, humans are human. Like
money controls power, baby.
Yeah, big potato salad got to him. It's clear. It's freaking clear, man.
I mean, look, it makes for better TV if you're like, oh, this is going to be a shutout unless I do something.
Aaron,
I only say that to say if when you just look at the stat sheet and you look at like the massive differential, even in the first half, the pre-adjustments first half, like Oregon's killing them on a yards per play basis and drives are being extended by extraneous events. And if extraneous events are what's necessary for your opponent to extend drives, you as a fan should not be freaking out.
Yeah, right. And in the end, we walk out of this game with 3 penalties called on us. That is it. So, and that felt wonderful. So we can, if you want to talk about entertaining television, we've got a few games up here that really brought the entertainment value. I'm telling you, man, they were pretty great. And let's just freaking get into this. That is right. Here it is. I guess I got a video. Yeah, I do have a video to play. Every single week I relearn this lesson. Here we are. The picks. So Aaron, it's time to pick the bottom of the big. pick the big bye. I forget what we call it. No, it's that. Pick the
Yeah.
bottom of the big. We're the Quack 12, right?
Pick the big bottom.
Pick the big bottom. And what we're starting off with is, well, 2 teams are going into a bye, so I figured we start them. We're not really going to pick them unless
Great.
you'd like to pick bye, Aaron.
Sure.
Okay.
If it gets me a point, I'll take it.
No, it'll probably get you 0.
Oh.
Unless bye wins, then I'll get you a point.
Okay.
Number 9, Oregon just humiliates, not really humiliates, but beats thoroughly Oregon State, and it felt good.
Wins by a proper margin.
That is the way. This is the Duck team we were promised, and it felt really freaking good. And honestly, I'm glad that we're not number 3 anymore, because number 9 still feels really good. It's punching distance within number 1. We're good. Then Wisconsin versus number 4 Alabama. Wisconsin's going into the bye. They need a week off. Tyler Van Dyke gets injured, I believe on the first drive. And he's out for a while. It looks like for the season. Yeah, his leg was completely. Yeah, it
was a non-contact. Those are the worst, man.
That's rough. It was a rough one. Wisconsin lost bigly. Alabama kicked some butt. Yeah, that's all I gotta say. I love
really a bummer. I didn't know that part.
Jump around, jump up, but jump down.
It doesn't sound like he'll be doing that for a while.
No, he won't, unfortunately. But we wish him all the health in the world. Okay.
Yeah.
Now we got teams who are coming off of a bye week and ready to play, including the number 3 Ohio State Buckeyes versus Marshall. I believe the Thundering Herd, or whatever. Marshall, this is again, like Ohio State has played a nobody, and once again, they are going to play a nobody.
Another nobody.
Do you think that they're going to get the upset here, Aaron?
I mean, that buff. Now, if I were ever to envision a buff man, that's it right there. That's a sassy little buffalo.
Yeah.
Or probably a bison, more realistically, let's be honest here.
Probably.
But with all that being said, where's Marshall from? Is it Marshall, Texas?
West Virginia.
Oh, okay. Because I was about to say, if it's Marshall, Texas, don't put it past him to kick some ass, honestly.
Also, it is a bison. It's Marco the Bison. So.
Oh, okay, great. But I'm still going to pick Ohio State, I think.
I like that his name's Marco. That's almost got me on the side of Marshall. It's almost got, but no.
Marshall.
Marco the Bison. Maybe his last name's Marshall. I don't know. It's almost like Marshall's such just a normal name. They almost have just gone with Marshall the Bison. But whatever. Hythloday, should I write you down for Marshall?
No, please don't.
Okay, you going with Ohio State? Have you learned? Have you watched? I'm sure you've watched a bunch of Ohio State, but
I actually have not watched a second of Ohio State.
Yeah, whoa.
There's nothing to learn.
They play nothing but patsies. I was actually just on a podcast with an Ohio State and a Michigan fan. Somehow they didn't kill each other. And yeah, I was like, man, I haven't. Ohio State has taken the Michigan strategy and are playing nothing but patsies, and that got both of them, a little fired up.
I mean, it's true.
So are you saying that they're going to have a 12-0 season?
Hopefully not.
No, I mean, I just mean that they selected easy non-conference opponents.
Oh, I see. Right.
But they'll play some more serious opponents before they play Oregon. So I will start paying attention to them in a moment. But
as of right now, you're a sicko if you're watching Ohio State football. Honestly, there's so much better thing. There's so many better games going on.
Maybe you went to college there. And so it's your team.
Then
and that's just what happens. Like my dad with the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
He didn't go to college there, though, I guess.
He didn't go to college at Dallas Cowboy University.
No,
Rutgers at Virginia Tech. Rutgers coming off a bye week. Still undefeated, which is a wonderful world to live in. Now they go against Virginia Tech. That's all I got. That's all I got for you, Aaron.
You know, I heard a talking head talk about Rutgers.
Whoa.
During watching the game. Something got brought up. There was a factoid that was brought up. I don't remember if it was good or bad.
Okay.
But I'm
That
looking at
information.
Virginia Tech and Rutgers, and I just feeling like a crazy person, I guess. I'm gonna go Virginia Tech.
That's not that crazy. I mean, neither of
really?
these are known. Yeah, I mean, they're undefeated right now, Virginia Tech.
Huh.
This is one where it's like, to tell you the truth, I've not watched much of Rutgers.
Sure.
I've watched zero of Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech has beaten Old Dominion, Marshall. Hey, there you go. They beat them 31-14, and a double overtime. No, an overtime game versus Vanderbilt, in which they lost. So actually, they did lose, but
So
they took them to
2-1.
the brink of that one. Oh boy, I need more coffee. Because I stumbled on my words talking about Virginia Tech, and because my phone is randomly ringing while I'm bringing them up.
Nothing is random, Adam.
That's true. And we got to look at this holistically. And because I want Rutgers to do well, because I think it would be funny, I'm rolling with the Scarlet Knights. Did you say Virginia Tech? You did, right?
Yes, sir.
I'm going with the Scarlet Knights.
I'm glad they're actually not undefeated, because an undefeated team at that level is bound to lose one, and this would be that. But
well, there you go.
They've already lost there, so this is the win.
Okay. Hith, are you back in the Big Ten, or are you going with the Hokies?
I'm going with Virginia Tech. I'm not super confident in it. Like, neither of these teams has really beaten anybody. To tell you the truth, I'm going with them purely on stats. You know, the advanced stats, Vegas. You know, everybody is slightly on Virginia Tech, and it's the home team for Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech appears to have a real quarterback. I know that Kyle Yakmanis is not a real quarterback.
Owie.
I mean, I watched him his entire year at Minnesota, and with this offensive coordinator, you know, Soraka, like,
not a good mesh.
As much as I love the 10-win, you know, Rutgers scenario, you know, it's predicated on them playing, you know, nothing but patsies all year long, which I do think is basically true. But like, if you recall during the offseason, I was like, yeah, and the one stumbling block is probably the toughest team that they play is Virginia Tech. So, you know, I'm gonna stick with it and say, yeah, Virginia Tech.
Everybody doubts the Scarlet Knights, and I'm fucking sick of it, if I'm being real. But let's get into it.
It's a great fucking Scarlet Knights.
It's a great program, Aaron.
It's a great imagery.
Yeah. Okay. Number 10, Penn State versus Kent State.
Kent State.
I don't like it. That's all I'm going to tell you.
Tough choice. Number
Penn
10.
State coming off a bye. I'll tell you that.
Right,
I don't know about Kent State.
Rested up and ranked number 10.
Mm-hmm.
Which is just one below us currently, which is insane. We should be top 5. Kent State. I only know that Devo went there, and there was some crazy shit that happened back in the day.
It'd be a huge underdog, by the way.
Yeah, so I think I do have to pick the one that has a number next to their name. I'm going to go Penn State.
That's honestly a pretty good strategy.
If it was like number 24, maybe I would be a bit more on the fence. But if you're top 10, probably going to play like a top 10.
I mean, Kent State has played some real powerhouses, as in St. Francis, Pennsylvania.
Dude.
Also,
don't even get me started about that team.
They got walloped by Pittsburgh and really walloped by Tennessee. And then I think I heard that Tennessee they were up like some ungodly number, like 30-0 in the first quarter, and then they went for like an onside kick.
Yes,
if I'm not crazy,
true.
That is nuts.
Yeah.
You know, you're practicing. You're being like, yeah, you're a practice team to us. But that's rude. That is rude.
It's a slap, but it's also a.
It's like we're paying to slap you. Basically, is what it felt like.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but still pretty insulting.
Football, baby.
It's a tough line of work. Penn State, I'm rolling with you because I want to win the Pick'ems this year. Hythloday, are you choosing this lovely Nittany lion here?
I am going with Penn State. Yes.
Yeah, well, yeah, makes sense. We want them to get exposed, but probably not against Kent State. Now, here we go. We've got some actual results to talk about. Teams that actually played last week.
Oh, finally.
Number 17, Michigan took on Arkansas State.
Mm-hmm.
Michigan was at home in the big house, and they won 28-18, but not before throwing a few interceptions. Definitely looked pretty mortal here. I did not watch this game. I had some. I used to be, hey, if it's a conference game, I am watching it so I can know what I'm talking about on the podcast. Now I'm all about, I'm watching every single minute of the Ducks play, and then I'm watching whatever game I freaking want to. I'm experiencing college football whole hog. Don't care about this.
It's awesome because what I actually like to do now is I watch the last few minutes of whatever game is on right before the Oregon Ducks football game.
There you go.
And then I don't watch anything else.
Broadening your horizons, huh?
Yeah.
I'm branching out, baby.
Yeah. We should have that as a new segment, is Aaron's final 2 minute of the previous game recap. Aaron, Hith, did you watch much of this Michigan game, and what'd you think of them? Do they look gettable?
Is Michigan gettable? Yeah, Michigan's gettable. Yeah, no, their offense is bleh.
That's a great way to put it.
Actually, the final score is a little misleading on this one. Michigan had this game pretty in hand, and Arkansas State just sort of, scored some points in garbage time, but like
you kept thinking, if this was another, if only this were a team that could take advantage of the gifts they've been given over and over and over. Yeah.
But I mean, this is Butch Jones, this is the Tennessee coach, with the of garbage can and 5-star Hearts fame, who's like crying in games because his team's so bad, like which is nothing wrong with shedding a tear. Like I'd shed a tear if I had to coach a team this bad too.
I'd love it.
It's just like, no, and Michigan can't score more than 28 on them, I
will say there's nothing wrong with crying, but if I'm on a bad team and I look over at my fucking coach and he's crying, I'm done. Like I'm not winning a single game, and I'm probably looking to leave. Or maybe like leave the sport of football if I made my coach goddamn cry on this.
I mean, like the Arkansas State's quarterback in a loss has more passing yards than Michigan's quarterback does.
That ain't good.
Yeah, they're going to change up their quarterback to Alex Orji, who can't throw the ball. Like, I mean, their offense is just donezo. Yeah.
I mean, with a name like that, his hands are full. I can understand. But they are playing a team coming off of a bye, USC, who's looking hot after a good start.
Are they?
Yeah, I mean, they're looking good. You can say it's a paper tiger thing.
They beat LSU in a game of 2 glass cannons.
Yeah.
And then they just, they smoked Utah State and got revenge on Bryson Barnes, the pig farmer.
Yeah.
Although I'm not sure he was playing in that game. I can't remember if he was playing in that game or not.
I couldn't tell you.
He did play against Utah last week.
Yes, he did. I watched that. Let's just say I had a parlay on that, and I was very upset that Utah couldn't score 2 more goddamn points.
Wow.
But that's the last time I'll ever do that. I learned my lesson. I'm a good boy now. Aaron,
you're also $2 million in debt.
I'm $2 million. I bet $2 million on that.
Yeah.
That was a nuts game. See, I'm like watching more Pac-12. Pac-12 teams.
Of course you are.
It's fun.
I was definitely watching 2 different teams who are in the Pac-12 this week.
Yeah.
In week 3.
Oh yeah.
Those were both fun games in the Pac-12.
Well, we'll bring up one, that's for sure. Aaron, who you got in this one? I'll tell you, USC is favored. There's more on their side, but Michigan is coming off of a national championship. Everyone's down on them, but they are at home, and they got a good defense.
This is the cheating team, right?
Yep.
So they're getting lessons learned this year, so I'm going USC, I guess.
Okay. Well, who knows if they're going to learn the lesson? I can't tell you that. Maybe they're trying to cheat right now.
I mean, if you've got new players, there's no lesson to be learned because nobody's there to learn it.
True. I feel more kinship with USC now that we're in the Big Ten. They're formerly of the pack, like with us. They're a West Coast team. I know a lot of these Big Ten teams are going to hate losing to USC, and that makes me really happy if they do lose to them. It used to just we used to have the mentality of, well, USC's that sleeping giant. We never want them to wake up. They used to just humiliate us and take all the recruits, and we would always be envious of them. And so we always had that chip on our shoulder of just like, well, USC's the one program that on paper should be better than us. And so we're always going to go against them. Now that we're in with Ohio State and Michigan and Penn State and even other storied programs, it kind of is just taken my hatred down a little bit for USC. It's a lot easier to root for them. I want them to do well. And, they do look the better team, even on the road. I hope they win, so I'm taking USC. Especially a ranked USC is pretty cool.
While you were saying all that, though, I did feel like, oh, shit, Michigan's going to win this game.
Yeah. So did I, honestly, halfway through. Hith, this could be an intriguing one. Who do you got?
I have USC. Like I know what you mean. Like Michigan could totally win this game.
Yeah.
Like in that I kind of think that. Well, I think that USC is a glass cannon. It's like they need to. The way that their offense works is it can be disrupted, and Michigan has the kind of defense to disrupt it. It's just that, like,
do they have the offense to score enough?
Yeah, exactly. It's like Michigan's got to be perfect.
Yeah.
All USC needs is one pass. They may win this game 7-0. Michigan. I just don't think Michigan. And the other thing is, I don't really think that USC has a defense. I don't really think that USC has substantially, meaningfully improved their. They got rid of Alex Grinch. They changed around a couple of players. I don't really think. I think that the problems with USC's defense are deep and structural. They have to do with like their defensive line, but I just think that Michigan is just completely anemic on offense for all the reasons that I wrote about on the offseason, and have like proved out so far this year. And I think a stiff breeze could probably stop Michigan, especially with the way that they want to play football. That's the thing. And if you look at the way that they were playing football last year, like the way that they want to play football, they're ineffective at. And they needed to get bailed out, on third downs by, JJ McCarthy, 2 wide receivers and a tight end, none of whom they have anymore. And so, like, I mean, seriously, they could get shut out the way that Utah State did. And like, while I think Michigan's defense could definitely disrupt USC, like USC just needs one pass to get through.
It's interesting this actually being in like the Big Ten bias now, where it's like I'm just thinking, yeah, USC could blow them out. Michigan would drop to like 24, 25, and
USC needs less things to go right than
Yeah.
Michigan does in order to win this game. So that's why I'm picking them. I could see Michigan winning this game.
Absolutely.
Like for example, turnover stuff. Like Michigan sacks Miller Moss like a bunch of times, and he fumbles the ball and gives them, some short fields to work with, like a scenario like that. Yeah, I could definitely see Michigan winning in a game like that.
If it was super rainy, maybe.
Yeah, or something. Weather. Yeah, like I mean, if you've got a great defense, you're in the game. And especially if you can harass a quarterback in a passing led team. Like you can create some chaos. And at home. There's scenarios. I don't want to say this is like 100%, far from, but like just on balance, USC needs fewer things to go right to win this game. So it would be foolish not to pick them.
Yeah. I also think it's like I'm sure Michigan fans are very diehard, especially coming off the national championship.
Yeah,
but
that building's a tomb. Have you ever been to that
no,
building?
I want to.
It's dead. I mean, just
Really?
like the acoustics of it. Like it's a large building, but I mean, you can hear a pin drop. It's
interesting.
Yeah.
Well, and I think like after all the scandal and getting exposed by Texas and not looking great in a lot of these games, if they're down big in halftime, I can imagine the energy just not doing them much favors. So we all got USC there. Okay. Number 23 Nebraska took on Northern Iowa, and they beat them 34-3. Not going to pretend like I watched much of this game. I see that score. Looks pretty good. Yep.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Then we got Illinois.
Wait, are we not? Oh,
well, we're getting into Illinois versus.
It's just
Central
so weird
Michigan.
how it jumps around. Sorry,
I
go
know.
ahead.
Jump around. They took on the Chippewas and they beat them 30-9. Not the Chippewa. That's it, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Here we have ranked on ranked.
Whoa.
Two teams that you didn't see them ranked.
There's your Big Ten propaganda.
Yeah. I don't think that you can make a case for either. You're like, well, they're undefeated. They neither of them have played anyone that's decent.
Yeah,
they've played against you can squint your eyes and see them as top 25 teams. The winner of this probably deserves to be like 24-22.
Yeah, sure. They'll be 4-0.
Yeah.
Why not?
But this does feel a little premature.
But I mean, Illinois' best win was Kansas, and Kansas just took it in the shorts. So they're probably not as good as people.
You even brought up that you're like, yeah, Illinois beat Kansas. Is Kansas bad?
Yeah, and probably the answer is maybe Kansas is just bad.
It does look like Kansas may be just bad. But Aaron, don't let that color in your choices here. We got number 22 Nebraska versus number 24 Illinois.
And did you just show in the last slide that Illinois had played a game?
Yeah, they beat the Chippewas, which
that's right.
They should have by this score here, 30-9.
There it is. Okay, thank you. And man, see, this guy with his confidence and his corn in his pocket really does make me love him a lot. But this Illinois team, I seem to always want to bet against, and they keep being like, "No, dude."
Mm-hmm.
So it's tough. Let me think.
Take your time. I'm looking up a GIF.
22 and a 24, both maybe we have hostile thoughts towards those rankings. I still think Nebraska's the better team here, and fuck, I don't know, man. Let's go Nebraska.
I get you.
Adam, you have this reversed, right? Like Nebraska's at home in this game. Illinois is the road team.
Oh, great.
Oh, I got it. Oh, well,
great.
Yeah, Nebraska's at home. I got Nebraska versus Illinois. Wait. Okay. Illinois is the home. Is that what you said?
No, Nebraska is at home. Traditionally, you put the home team second, and the.
I agree with you there, but I already had the background, so I just put versus.
And also, Hythloday, if he had done it the other way, I would have been confused by that. This actually made me realize what was going on. I wanted the
colors to be clear for Aaron. Yeah. But I agree with you. Usually I would actually put it there. Well, let's see. So we're at home. That is a big. If they brings that up for a good point.
Nebraska at home. They always fill the stadium.
Especially it probably. I mean, they were going to fill the stadium regardless, but it helps energy wise that it's like, holy shit, this is a top 25 matchup. And we are ranked and we're favorite. So the energy is going to be crazy. And that Kansas losing actually really did make me side eye this Illinois team, which I was riding for a minute. And that they haven't necessarily looked crazy dominant. And I mean, I guess I don't know. I'm going with Nebraska because it's fun to root for. You said Nebraska, right, Aaron?
Yep.
Yeah. I'm going with Nebraska as well because it's fun to root for a young QB who's pretending to be Patrick Mahomes. And I like that. I like that he's cosplaying, and I like that Nebraska. I want Nebraska to be good, honestly. I like that they showed up for that women's volleyball match a while ago, like 90,000 strong or something like that. So I like the Nebraska people and fan. They're a simple people, but they're a good people.
Hey, whoa,
What? I'm trying to get fans.
A lot of people would look at Oregonians as like simple people too, brother.
Yeah, we are. We're just not
simple people.
We're just not, Midwest simple. But Hith, who you got here, Nebraska or Illinois?
I got Nebraska.
Yeah.
Great.
I just, I think there are more, from my research in them, I just think Nebraska is a more complete team. I really just had one question on them, was how their passing game was going to operate, given what their offensive tackle situation was and a true freshman quarterback. And so far it's been, looking good. Whereas Illinois, in my offseason research on them, I just don't think it's a complete team. The only thing that had given me pause was the result of that Kansas game. But, as we've discussed, it's given me less pause now.
Yeah.
And Nebraska's at home, so hey.
You'd hope so. It'd be very Nebraska, like recent Nebraska to lose this game, but
it would.
Hopefully not. Okay, so we got some more results here. Indiana at UCLA, they beat them 42-13, but don't let the score fool you.
Oh yeah, this could have been so much worse. Like UCLA kept getting gifts from the refs to extend drives. Like I mean, like maybe 5 or 6 of them, like big 15-yard penalties, some of the worst you've ever seen. Like I mean, this could have been like 90-0. Like
it was Indiana. I love 9-win Indiana that's like in the rear view mirror. In my point, I'm looking for them to actually make the.
I'll push back for a second though. Like I do actually think that structurally Indiana does have a substantial number of flaws to their defense. And I don't think that their run game Indiana's offensive run game is super hot.
I can see that.
It's more, but UCLA was definitely not positioned to take advantage of some of the issues in Indiana's defense, and it doesn't matter. Like that, their run game was okay enough to keep the ball moving. It was not significant enough liability that it created problems for them in their passing game. Rourke, I had some questions about Rourke because his history is like weirdly really up and down. Like his up was really good and his down was like really weird. But like, man, he looks good. He looks like the good version. That they had to sort of roll the dice that which version of Rourke they were going to get, and it looks like they got the good version. So thumbs up. All systems go for them. And as I was writing about Indiana, they have to roll the dice on a bunch of different positions. But like the most important ones, it seems like they come up boxcars. So like, look out for this team.
This it really, and again, I would like to point this out. Last week I was like, what the hell is Vegas seeing? UCLA is +3. That's it. Like Indiana only needed to score 3 more points. Hammer, life savings. Like I truly was like, I don't know what's happening. This made me feel justified.
Meanwhile, UCLA might have the worst offense in the Big Ten, which would be in a truly astonishing accomplishment.
You know what's sad? I agree with you there, Aaron. Hythloday. But not only that, you know what's a freaking shame is UCLA does not play Northwestern, and that would have been the game, man. Like that would have truly been like. In my opinion, that would be the trophy for who is the worst Big Ten team.
The thing that's a kind of a pity about UCLA is that they have the worst offense, but it's not because they have bad skill talent or that Garbers has no talent or, it's just that their offensive line is absolutely horrendous.
It's just that.
And It's really just that. Well, there is one other factor, which is that Garbers is really Jekyll and Hyde. Like, I mean, it's crazy because it kind of reminds me of Anthony Brown, not like the way that Anthony Brown played football, but just the like. I would start like in 2021, like the first line of every one of my articles was like Anthony Brown is simultaneously the reason why this game was close and the reason why Oregon won this game. And it's like that's Garbers. He's like, Garbers simultaneously like screwed up a bunch of plays that are just like, oh my God, dude, what are you doing? And then also would yank their asses out of the fire and pull off this amazing play. And you're just like, who are you, dude? So that's the other, factor. But like everything else they kind of have going well, and also Bieniemy, I think sometimes calls wacky plays, but that's really only fans fixate on that. It becomes a problem only on a couple of plays per game. The underlying fundamental factors that are play in, play out is the offensive line is just getting smoked like every play.
I mean, and Duck fans can now tell you through recent experience what great skill players but troubling O-line play gets you.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason why, like, in every preview that I write, I spend like half of the offensive section talking about the offensive line. It's like, it is your football team. Like everything else is window dressing.
Honestly, if in my opinion, I would prefer football versus just offensive lines. Just going at each
other. Or you
other.
could do the other way and play sprint football or,
Olympic football. Indiana versus Charlotte is the next game that's happening.
Wait. We're doing. I'm sorry. I thought
it is
UCLA LSU.
We got a weird comp. We shall. First, I went with the winner, and they're going against the 49ers, the Charlotte 49ers, and Indiana is heavily favored. Why the hell ain't Indiana ranked? Indiana should be ranked.
It is strange that they're not ranked.
Right?
I mean, if Nebraska's. Well, yeah. Why are Nebraska and Illinois ranked in Indiana?
Why is Illinois?
It's just poll inertia. It's just because voters see Indiana and they're like, "Oh, that team sucks."
Yeah, but Illinois, they're clearly being like, "But Illinois is playing Nebraska. It'd be good if they were."
Yeah.
ranked.
Meanwhile, Michigan, which has looked like wormed over crap in a bunch of games. Well, defending national champions, got to rank them 18. Yeah.
It's like, you think Michigan would wipe the floor with Indiana right now? I don't know about that. But Indiana versus
I remember in our picks pod. Remember in our over-unders podcast, that was one of the ones I highlighted as Indiana might beat Michigan. Remember that? Don't look so dumb now, don't it?
Yeah, listeners. Fuck off.
Did somebody give you grief for that, Hythloday?
Yes, someone did give me grief.
A Michigan man. Aaron, who you got?
Do you want to say their name out loud, Hythloday? Do you want to shoot direct shots?
No, that's ridiculous.
Okay.
I'll do it.
I'm going to go with Indiana.
It was James goddamn Voss. No, I don't know.
But I do think that mascot for Charlotte is super sick.
I tried to. I took my time to find a logo to try to get you to do this.
Mm-hmm.
But
I mean, I know the trick now, but I do enjoy seeing them.
It worked for like a week, though. It worked.
Oh yeah, you had me hook, line, and sinker 2 weeks.
Obviously, if Indiana's going to win at least 10 games, they're winning this one. So I'm going with Indiana. Hith, should I jot down Indiana for you?
Yes.
Well, there we go. Next one, though. UCLA at number 16 LSU.
Mm-hmm.
LSU.
Mm-hmm.
Well, their game against USC feels like that classic early overreaction game where you're like, two teams that, like two name brand teams going against each other. One of them won. Oh, both these teams are probably national title contenders, but they got a little, even in that loss, they kind of got heat for that. Brian Kelly flipped out. It was very funny. Then they played against South Carolina, and that was a back and forth crazy affair. I didn't watch any of that game.
I watched all of it. I mean, it was a hilarious game.
Yeah, it seemed actually really fun.
It was like at first LSU was doing everything in their power to lose, and then South Carolina did everything in their power to lose. It was like, it was amazing.
Huge plays. It made me kind of think maybe LSU's defense ain't it, because just anyone's apparently
they definitely ain't. Yeah. I mean, they weren't last year.
Yeah, and there may be more of that, but they can score points on you, especially if you're UCLA. And UCLA is traveling to LSU. I got UCLA at number 16 LSU. Do you think the Bruins got what it takes, Aaron?
No, of course not. Just like I said from the beginning here, LSU is one of those teams that takes some time to warm up. This is the perfect game for them to get all 6 cylinders running and humming, baby. I'm going LSU probably by 12.
You backing them Bayou Bengals?
Might as well.
I'm going by
nothing to lose.
LSU is angry and they need a win. I mean, they just got to win, but they want a clean win. So I think they're also winning by 12. 12 touchdowns, that is.
Wow.
Yeah, they're gonna.
That'd be the biggest margin of victory in like 50 years, man.
Did you watch that UCLA game? I think it's possible. All right. No, I don't think it's possible for LSU's defense to hold someone.
I did watch that game, and my other prediction about that game that the entire stadium would be red also came true.
Yeah.
Another fun fact about the Rose Bowl that I learned: their student section, they have bolted the chairs in the up, like the seats in the up position, so the students can't sit down.
Wow!
And so the students have responded to this by not going.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's exactly what I would do. Be like, oh, you mean I can't watch UCLA get destroyed by Indiana? Yeah, that's so silly. Make it harder to get to the Rose Bowl. Yeah.
Like enjoy the game there.
To enjoy a game, yeah.
Wait, real quick though, I did have a question about UCLA.
Let's hear
it. Were they the instigators of going to the Big Ten and the dissolution of the Pac-12?
Yeah, them and USC.
Sort of. USC is widely believed to be the instigator, and they sort of took UCLA with them.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, that's actually because I was gonna say, this is what you get coming to you whenever you start stirring the pot like that.
I mean, they help stir the pot.
They're just fools.
They help stir the pot, though. They could have said no.
Exactly. And now they were like, those great scenes when you're like, well,
Aaron?
This body's dead already. I'll use it as a shield. That's
Aaron?
UCLA.
Oh, yeah. Into the Big Ten. Yeah. Aaron, hold on to that thought.
My favorite part is that the UC regents are forcing UCLA to pay Cal Berkeley $10 million a year in what is widely called calimony.
Yeah.
Wow.
Cal has started out 3-0, including beating Auburn in Jordan Hare.
Yeah.
And I just love UCLA, having to pay Cal $10 million. Like whenever like a G5 team or an FCS team beats, a power team at home, and it's a buyout game, right? It's like, oh man, they had to pay Northern Illinois, like Notre Dame paid Northern Illinois,
Florida State
$1.2 million or whatever.
Yeah.
Florida State, paid them $100,000 some dollars in order for the privilege to beat them. I love UCLA paid Cal $10 million this year in order for this to happen.
And Cal,
this is like the ultimate buyout game.
Cal is having a great time out there. They're still totally Cal. They are absolutely still Justin Wilcox's Cal Golden Bears, as in their offense still it's kind of vintage. It's like premium Cal, but it's still like pretty hard to watch. Great defense. That game against San Diego State that they just had, it was like they were clearly the better team, but also they took
a while to show it.
It took forever, and like it was all defensive highlights, no offense. And then Cal's fans are showing up both online and in the stadium to the point where they were throwing trash.
No, they were throwing the cards. Like Cal invented the card stunt back in 2010 or 1910, and the people showed up and they didn't understand what the cards were for, because I guess they were handing out a bunch of free tickets, so people showed up and didn't understand what the cards were for, so they were throwing them on the field, and they got like a bunch of 15 or like the refs were penalizing them. They got penalties. And so Wilcox grabbed the head ref's mic from off his neck, and it was like, fans, we love you, but knock it off. We can't get you penalized.
Yeah.
You know, which is just like Justin Wilcox, the angriest man in sports. Like if a human being ever like turns green and hulks out, like it's gonna be Justin Wilcox. Like
he's great.
Yeah.
I could watch that clip on loop. That was the funniest thing I've ever seen.
It was so good. We love Cal. We love you, Cal. Keep it up. Also, all their memes online are so funny where it'll be like, you just got beat, like, because especially Auburn versus Cal is whenever Cal goes down south to play a team, they get called commies, like really legitimately hardcore and like commies, leftists, whatever you want to say. And so they've really run with that. And I've seen stuff where it'll be like, you've been defeated by the woke agenda and like all these awesome memes. It's so, I love Cal. Power to you. Rob Wong.
They got Florida State this week.
Yeah.
Which
and
is
Florida State. Oh my God.
Which,
oh my God.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like the commies are taking over.
Yeah, so all the memes now are like woke Campbell Stadium, right? Because it's dope.
Yeah,
dope Walker Stadium.
It's so good. If they beat Florida State, which Florida State looks, everyone else has beaten them. That's played them.
But remember, in Cal's history, like Cal always gives the undefeated team their one win, like Arizona, in Colorado, and yeah.
Well, if they are the team of destiny, if they can beat Florida State, then if they can get over that hump. What if Cal wins the fucking ACC?
I've been widely predicting that every conference that took a Pac-12 team is going to be won by a Pac-12 team.
Utah,
so it's like Utah's winning the Big 12, Oregon or USC or somebody's winning the Big 10. Cal's going to win the ACC. Yeah, it's like the SEC was the smartest conference because they kept the Pac-12 contagion out.
Wazoo's winning the
one form of quarantine that the SEC is willing to accept was, that's what they masked up to do.
Keep that Pac-12 out of here. Yeah, Maryland versus that woke mind virus will get you. I get why they're afraid of Cal. Yeah, Maryland versus Virginia. Maryland did win 27-13. Their last outing was a pretty humiliating loss to Michigan State after getting some momentum. This is not like a great win, but they won and they're Maryland, so it should be celebrated. I didn't watch any of this, but I remember it took a while to really pull away, but I was excited to see Maryland fans happy. So,
I mean, am I crazy that guy that's the mascot, that
Cavalier,
the Cavalier there, it looks just like the guy on a pre-ground pepper canister, right? The white can. It's got red and blue.
What kind of pepper are you talking about?
No, I know what you're talking about. I know exactly what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about?
I don't know what the
like red and white. I'm looking it up.
It's like McCallie. It's like McCallie or McCormick. It's not McCormick. It could be.
Yeah,
McCormick.
it's another. Yeah, I know what you mean.
It's like that.
I can picture it perfectly.
Anyway, I honestly love Maryland.
There is a McCormick. I get what you mean.
Is it McCormick?
There's not like a logo, but there's definitely like the color scheme's the same.
It's the color scheme then. Okay. Anywho, he looks like he should be on a can. I love Maryland. I think they are gonna be our ride or dies for the next 10 years.
Interesting. Well, look at this. I've got two different logos here. Okay, this is huge. This is the only time that I saw multiple logos where I was like, I just can't choose. I got to get both.
Yeah.
You got one Villanova Wildcat that just looks so great, very 90s, very Pog aesthetic, which what I'm always looking for. Then the bottom one here looks like it's got the face of Bobby Hill. It's a cat walking through a V. Looks like Bobby Hill from King of the Hill. So I had to choose both of them.
Right. What you've done here actually is you've fulfilled two needs. One, the top one, the Wildcats with the color, that's like premium starter jacket material.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Whereas the bottom one, that's exactly the kind of vintage tee gym shirt that you want to find at your local thrift store.
Well, which one are you going with then? These trendy, cool picks? Villanova is very good at sports, or are you going with Maryland?
Oh, yeah, no, I'm ride or die, baby. It's Maryland all day, every day.
I thought I'd get you with Villanova is very good at sports. It's not football necessarily.
Right. Let's say it's probably volleyball or some shit.
Probably, but also basketball, famously.
And lacrosse. They're very good
And
at
lacrosse. There you
but
go.
so is Maryland.
So is Maryland. I was about to say. I'm going with Maryland for obvious reasons. There's no reason why they should lose this game. Another win for Maryland. That'd be good. Hith, you going with the Villanova Wildcats?
No, the Terps.
Okay.
Did we pick UCLA LSU?
All of us picked LSU. I didn't. I think I didn't ask you. I think I just wrote LSU.
Yes, I picked LSU. I just wanted to make sure.
To be assumed.
It would be amazing if by the end of that.
LSU, Death Valley.
Yeah, they're pissed. I think they're gonna want to rack up the score to be like, oh yeah, this is our get back game. We beat the mighty UCLA Bruins. Aaron. This is it. This is the most beautiful game you could. During the same time,
Wazoo tried to give this game away too.
They really did.
Tear through like 2 almost game-ending picks, and then
one maybe
Washington still couldn't capitalize.
What? Because they had like 10, 12 penalties.
Oh my god! Yeah, no, they kept getting penalized, and like I watched this whole game. This wasn't a UCLA situation where it was like, oh, those pesky refs, like they deserved. There was one of them that I think was a little questionable, but only one. Like they deserved all of them.
And they were in Seattle. It was not a home game necessarily, but it was is that Lumen Field or something?
Oh yeah, right.
Play. Yeah. So like it was still should have been basically a home field advantage. Because despite the fact that the Space Needle is on the basketball court of Wazoo, they do not actually play in Seattle, and it was such a good, feel good, awesome victory. Really weird play call, in my opinion, for it to try to get Washington into the end zone. They were like knocking on the door, and they get stuffed on 4th down, and Wazoo just is able to kneel it out again because penalties makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at the comparative. If you look at the comparative EPA, Washington somewhat outplayed them. But yeah, the penalties just absolutely, killed them. And then but then if you limit it to 4th quarter, like in the 4th quarter, Washington just collapsed. Like they could not move the ball at all in the 4th quarter. And Washington State just had like more like reserves.
Which I love in Mateer. I mean, he threw some picks, but he's still a very fun player to watch. He's their guy, and Dickert's their guy now forever. And it's just like it's such a feel good story that it's this team that gets like relegated to the Pac-12 to staying in this sinking ship, which has now got some life, but and then they beat their rival in Seattle. It was just an amazing feeling, and now I'm really rooting for Wazoo. It'd be nice if Boise State were to keep winning just for our look, but I don't care. I would love for Wazoo to get the 1 spot for a G5 team in the playoffs. It'd be amazing. I would love it. Go Cougs! You guys are the best. So glad we don't have to play you. I think we'd win, but I'm glad we don't have to.
Yeah, we would win.
We would.
I'm sorry. Do you know offhand which one I picked?
We all picked Wazoo.
Oh, thank God.
We all picked Wazoo. We all saw it coming.
Good.
Made me feel good. We're on the right path, y'all. Just this is the game of the week. It was fantastic. It sucks that it happened during the Duck game, but I did something very rare. I got a second TV screen. It was a little one and it was on mute. But I had to get one because I was like, I gotta, if the Ducks are going to beat the Beavers and Washington is going to lose to Wazoo, I have to be watching this at the same time. And it ended, like the Ducks game ended perfectly and we were in garbage time. And then I got to see, it was, this is what college football is all about, baby.
You got to slowly transition.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that.
It was fantastic. It was great. Now we got this plucky little guy. This Northwestern Wildcat. They did beat the Eastern Illinois Panthers 31-7, though it took again a little while to separate. Like it looked like maybe the Panthers were in for an epic upset, but they weren't. 31-7 Northwestern wins. I wish they played UCLA so we could really determine who the worst Big Ten team is, but this would be a lot better. Washington versus Northwestern.
Interesting.
If Washington were to lose to Northwestern, then I can maybe claim Washington's the worst Big Ten team. Northwestern, if they've got anything to hang their hat on, it's their defense. But this is a bad team. But Washington looks not great either. Penalties could come a knocking again. Aaron, who you got?
Well, that's interesting, the penalty thing, because that is to be thought about, especially if Hythloday is saying that they're all pretty much earned.
Yeah.
But maybe they'll try and tighten it up a little bit because I think they're going to squeak a win on this one.
Washington?
Yeah, by 3-7.
Yeah,
like 3 or 7. So you know what I mean?
If I was,
the score will be 7-3.
If I was more of a casual and not like I've watched a good amount of Northwestern football because I wanted to watch the struggle sesh and I wanted to see how bad they were. And they're playing in an interesting, like on an interesting stadium, if you want to call it that. Well, I've watched enough to not hype myself up for them beating Washington. They are really not good. I am going with UW, unfortunately, to get their first Big Ten win of the year. Hopefully their last. Hith, tell me you're picking Northwestern. Tell me you believe in the Wildcats.
I do not believe in the Wildcats.
Dang.
I just don't think this team's very good. They switched to their other quarterback, Lausch, who's like I've seen him before. I think it's interesting. They robbed us of the, both Will Rogers and Mike Wright were transfers from Mississippi State. Wright was Rogers' quarterback, but they benched Wright and they've gone with Lausch, who was like the one of the remaining quarterbacks from Northwestern's just absolute carousel of awfulness. Like I just don't I mean basically I just don't think either of these teams are very good, but Washington's at home and actually at home in Husky Stadium on their slippery surface and overhangy roof and
excruciatingly steep stadium. My God.
Yeah, Aaron.
That
Aaron was very afraid. It was very rainy.
IMAX theaters. Yeah,
it was nuts. Here we go. Minnesota versus Nevada. They kick their butts.
Yeah,
Nevada ain't great, but they kick their butts and they blanked them. I always am impressed, no matter who you're playing in football, because the Ducks so rarely do it ever. That if you blank someone, I am impressed by that. That is a hard thing to do no matter who you are playing. Because eventually, even if it's a blowout, you got your second, your third string in there. And so to hold them to 0, that is pretty cool. So way to go. Iowa versus Troy, 38-21. I didn't see this game. The 21 points scored by Troy does have my eyebrows lifted a little bit. But I don't want to watch.
One of them was on special teams. They returned like a punt.
Okay, so that's 38-14 would definitely read a little different. I don't want to watch Iowa football, so I try to avoid it as much as I can.
Okay.
Minnesota versus Iowa. It's gonna be the score may be close. It may be like, it came down to the last second. It's gonna be some tough football to watch, though, even if everything's going right.
Why?
Just because it's like neither offense is all that good.
It's just sloppy.
When they won,
sloppy is not the right word. They're just bad.
Talent lacking. And they're built around they're like, we want to win on defense and like running the ball and controlling the clock. And their defenses are typically pretty good. But it makes it so it's like these teams usually there's one way they're going to win. They want to win their one way, and that's it. And
so boring.
Yeah. Unless shit's going really wrong, then it can be kind of fun. Like if it's 3-3 entering the, or late into the fourth, that's fun in a way.
Yeah.
But Who do you got in this one?
It's
Minnesota's at
not
home.
fun when it's 14-14 for 3 quarters, which is
No.
what I feel like this game is probably going to do. And it'll be Iowa that squeaks it out with just like an 8-minute drive that ends in a field goal.
I get you. They're, purely because typically they're a better team, Iowa, than Minnesota, like historically. And they're good at, I don't necessarily want to say this team is good at it yet, but typically they're so used to very close games that they can be good at winning them. Because I want to try to separate myself, and this seems like a pretty close one, I'm going to go with Minnesota. I'm not very confident in it, but it is a place where I think maybe I can get a point if Iowa just really doesn't show up. And if Minnesota somehow gets something going on offense, enough going on offense. Hith, who do you got in this one?
Well, I'll play my part. I'll pick Iowa.
Nice.
That's a smart pick for you, Adam, because
Right.
I'm not super confident that I was going to win this game. It's just like, it's like a 51-49 pick for me. Iowa and Minnesota play the same type of ball, just Iowa does it a little better. So, therefore I must pick Iowa, but there's absolutely Minnesota. I mean, Minnesota beat them last year doing exactly this. Iowa lost a game this year to Iowa State, because they played Iowa ball stupidly, which, basically Iowa lost to Iowa State this year in the same fashion that Iowa lost to Minnesota last year. So therefore, what I'm trying to say is that the reasons that they lost to Minnesota last year are not out of their system. And so therefore they could very easily lose to them again. And
they're on the road.
And they're on the road. But frankly, the fact that they are favored on the road, Vegas is giving them 2.5 points on the road. All the advanced stats have them slightly favored. Actually, FPI has it exactly 50%. I've never seen that before. I don't know. I think the McNamara is probably a better quarterback than Brosmer. I think that Taylor is probably a better running back I definitely think that Taylor's a better running back than any of Iowa's running backs. But I think that the one thing that Iowa does pretty well is stop the run.
It feels like for Minnesota to win this, it's absolutely going to be like some special teams thing or a pick six and 3 field goals or something like that.
I mean, if Ferentz loses, it'll be because Ferentz played Ferentz ball, which he's always apt to do. But then if Minnesota loses, it's because Fleck will do something conservative and idiotic, which he's always apt to do. So I don't know, man.
He really has got to treat this as an all-out thing, and that ain't Fleck thing, man.
You picked well. You had to know that I would pick Minnesota Iowa in a 51-49 thing, and so that's a smart.
It feels really
differentiate.
It feels like the close one, honestly. Then we got Michigan State versus Prairie View A&M. They won 40-0 again. 0. Prairie View A&M is truly a lower level, but they did it 40-0, and it's honestly fun. Because I still think Michigan State is, like you said, in a rebuild. Jonathan Smith, give me some time. We're getting this thing going. But got to give them credit. They've done that, and they're undefeated right now. I don't think they've proven that they're a completely different team than we thought they were. But they are undefeated right now, and Michigan State fans got to feel pretty good about that. And they got a young QB who's showing some promise. Those are things you want to see if you're rebuilding. They're going against Boston College, Thomas Castellanos. He had a rough game last week. They lost last week. which
To
it was like
Mizzou.
to Mizzou, highly ranked team. They led for a while too,
Yeah.
but then once they were forced to throw the ball, that ain't really Boston College's strength right now. But you gotta love. See, I want to say Castellanos. You see 2Ls. I believe I've listened to enough interviews where the person's actually knows their shit, where they say Castellanos, but then it makes you double guess because the amount of people that are actually calling these fucking games are saying Castellanos to the point where it's like they're hitting that L so hard that it makes me think they've done research that I don't know. Like maybe that's just the way they pronounce. But no, it's just a classic thing of like I don't know how these commentators cannot learn. Like a lot of times it'll be the star player of this fucking team, and they won't learn how to say the dude's name. I don't get it. But Boston, I got a friend who went to Boston College too, so I'm always somewhat rooting for them. I love Doug Flutie. It's a fun idea for Boston College to be good, and they were ranked last week. That's pretty cool.
Have you asked Aaron for his pick?
Not yet, but I'm giving Aaron some thoughts here.
I mean, out of the gate, I vibe with Boston College all day long.
Really? I mean, it could be an interesting one. It really could be. I think what it's going to come down to is, can Boston College run on Michigan State? Probably. I mean, they picked up our wonderful D lineman, so hopefully they don't make him look too bad. But I think they can. I think this is going to be a close game. I don't know. I've watched a couple of Boston College games, specifically the one when they upset Florida State, but I don't know how Boston College. I didn't watch like the Mizzou game, and I don't know. I assume they don't hold up very well against the pass. I don't know, but they probably hold enough to keep Michigan State's young QB from rallying back like he did against Maryland. I really want to choose Boston College. Michigan State.
Come join the dark side, baby.
Home. I think the home field, and I think BC fans are gonna still be in it because they're like, hey, us losing somewhat close to a top 10 team is still a huge good spot for us. We have an exciting player. I want to choose Boston College, so I'm gonna choose Boston College. I wouldn't be surprised if Michigan State won it though.
No,
even on the road.
Boston College. Have you ever been there? It's fun. Good time. Good place.
I've been to Boston.
Campus.
You know me, I don't get out of Eugene very often. I have been to Boston. I had a great time there. I didn't go to the BC campus, but my friends both. I had a friend who went there. They party hard there.
Yes, they do. That's why I believe in them to win this.
Yeah. I would love for Boston College to win. It could very well be a very close game, though. I don't know. Hythloday, who do you got? I'm very interested in who you got in this one.
I have Boston College.
Jeez. Have we? We're all picking the same.
Oh, I'll tell you at the end. There's a couple.
Sorry, Hythloday.
We vary, yeah.
I mean, I watched that game against Florida State. I think it's interesting that they're facing the two former Oregon State quarterbacks. The way that Michigan State clawed their way back against Maryland, a team that was doing better than them, but then Childs hit a bunch of bombs, is basically how Mizzou, got back into the game against Boston College. They hit, some Brady Hook hit some passes to Luther Burden, that were, some long passes. And Boston College didn't really have to worry about that with DJ Uiagalelei because that guy can't hit the broad side of a barn if it's more than 10 yards downfield.
We've learned that, yes.
So I can sort of see, I can see Boston College as a more complete team, coached by Bill O'Brien, putting the squeeze on Michigan State and generally being a better team, and then Childs hitting some bombs. And so I could see this being a game that's like similar to the Michigan State versus Maryland game, in which, Boston College is generally outplaying them. And then, Michigan State gets into it, on one pass. And then you're like, what the hell? And so, really what this just comes down to, is whether, Boston College can make Childs pay for the recklessness with which he plays, and get some turnovers, which which they haven't really generated, so like, I don't know, like that's sort of what gives me pause. I don't know. I think that I was really down on Maryland for not being able to capitalize. I think that probably Boston College is better than Maryland. And so I think they will be able to capitalize for just the bad ways that Michigan State is constructed. And so I like them, but like, man, I wouldn't be surprised if Michigan State sort of does the same thing, lose until they win with some bombs. But yeah, give me Boston College, just because I think it's a more complete team.
It would be fun for Michigan State to get this, mainly because I would just like, if they can get to a bowl game this year, it would be just so huge. And I am rooting for Jonathan Smith, because I still like him. I still think of him as a Beaver, basically, even though Beaver fans definitely don't. Okay, here we go. Purdue versus number 18 Notre Dame. Aaron's pick from last week, Purdue, did not do very well. Notre Dame, this is clearly Notre Dame just getting so pissed that they're the laughing stock last week, losing to NIU.
Oh, boy.
They brought it. I didn't watch any of this. Why would I watch this? 66-7. They lost. They even Notre Dame's. Yeah.
What's the deal? Notre Dame's good again?
No, I think Purdue's not good.
Oh, got it. Okay, noted, and filed.
I think that's the way to read this, or at least certainly not on the talent level of Notre Dame, though neither was Northern Illinois University, and look what happened there. Yeah, I mean they were pissed. Riley Leonard, I don't even think he finished. I think they pulled him out by the second half. So this is an interesting opponent, though. Look at this. Look who popped back into our Big Ten schedule. Purdue at Oregon State. Now they were not on Notre Dame's level, but do you think they are on the level of the team we just beat? This is the final game, final pick, by the way.
Well, I think that we're going to beat Notre Dame if we ever play them, and
they'd have to make a play.
And so, yeah, I'm pretty sure OSU is going to take this one home. It won't be quite the same score that Notre Dame got to enjoy, I don't think.
No, that'd be amazing.
But
for this Oregon State team to score 70 would be amazing against anybody.
Yeah, I mean, it's the game Oregon State needs to win to revitalize some of the confidence that we completely shattered out of them.
Yep. We shattered out of it.
Yeah.
I love this little beaver mascot, by the way, this little logo here, which you can see if
you're
watching us on YouTube. If you're watching
it's
us
all
on
right.
YouTube, you can see all these logos. I haven't watched any Purdue, but I've seen the scores, and I don't think they're a solid team. Oregon State, I think, is doing enough right to be able to beat Purdue. I think they'll do it somewhat comfortably by 2 scores, especially the fact that it's at home. Not that I think they had a crazy home field advantage, but I think Purdue is bad and is not ready to take on this Beaver team. But I'm also saying this out of ignorance for Purdue. Maybe Purdue totally is ready to hang, but I'm going with Oregon State because I like my Beavs.
Primo.
And Hith, Boilermakers or the Beavs? Last pick.
I have Purdue in this game.
Ooh!
Wow!
What are your reasons, my man?
The reasons are that in my study of Purdue, what I learned is that Hudson Card, who's a former 4-star quarterback,
didn't he play for
Texas,
Washington,
Texas?
Texas, okay. Huh.
What I learned about him is that he's his passing performance exactly tracks how good the defense is, and specifically how good the pass rush is. And if you doubt that at all, go look at my Purdue Duck Dive article. Like it's the prettiest graph you've ever seen. Like exactly how good his passer rating is exactly how bad the defense is. And I give theoretical reasons and film study based reasons why in that article. I won't belabor them here. And what I also gleaned from watching Oregon State is that they have no pass rush, like none at all. And they're pretty conservative, like they don't blitz. They're not going to create anymore. And I just think that Card is going to have all day to throw. And I just think he's just, I really think that he's going to light up Oregon State. Like that's the thing about Purdue, that sort of he is straight up, like if you give him a clean pocket, he's like clean pocket. Hudson Card is one of, if not the best quarterback in the pack in the Big Ten. Like he's straight up a really good quarterback with a clean pocket.
What the hell is he doing with Purdue then?
Well, because not clean pocket, even a little bit creased pocket.
Yeah.
Hudson Card is terrible. Throws the ball into the stands. And so, that's what, when he plays, a halfway decent defense or a great defense, like he's an absolute liability. But when you play a team where, they got no pass rush and he's got, as much time as he wants, he's going to look like Dylan Gabriel.
This is a real hot pocket situation. Like it's hard to get it right in that not ice cold, not lava.
And with Ryan Walters calling the defense, this is the kind of defense that that Walters kind of fun, interesting. His defensive structure, I'm not going to belabor it, but his defensive structure is actually set up pretty well to deal with Oregon State. Given that they only need to shut down one wide receiver, who's Trent Walker.
Yeah.
Like they're actually his defensive structure is actually pretty well set up to shut down that passing game. And so they can just focus on the running game, and they always have 7 dudes in the box, which means like, I think they'll pretty effective. So you combine, like, I think they're going to light them up in the passing game on offense. I think they're going to be better situated than a mint defensive structure to stop the, efficiency run game, and then shut down their one wide receiver with a defensive head coach. Like, I actually think Purdue could win pretty comfortably. Just the way that they match up. Not that Purdue is a significantly better team than Oregon State. That's not what I'm saying. But I just like the matchups from having done film study on both of these teams. Like I feel like just the way these Lego pieces, fit together, favor Purdue significantly.
Interesting. After talking to you here, I definitely would switch my mind, but hey, might as well roll with the Beavs.
We're right.
I gotta catch up somehow, and this ain't. We'll see. You don't just
got to put a little mustard on it.
The unfriendly confines of wherever the hell they play. Here we go. So here's last.
They're playing that game in Reeser.
In Reeser.
Oh, the other thing is that the last time they played, Purdue won, which was
that is true.
Only a couple of years ago, and this is
I do remember
in
that
a similar way.
I do remember that. That was a good Beaver team. Too. So here we are from last week. Hythloday had a 1-point advantage. I was 2 points ahead of Aaron. That's where we were at.
You're 1 point ahead of me.
Oh, that's right. Math. Really tough math. I was the only one, we should say this, brave enough to pick the Wisconsin Badgers. Neither of you thought about it.
So it sounds like we're in the exact same position we've been in.
Well, not quite, Aaron.
Because I lost real bad, huh?
You may have lost a couple of picks here, because here we got the results. If you got any questions, I can read them out. But boom, here we are. Adam has fallen behind, because me and Hith had the exact same picks. Hythloday went 100% on his picks from last week, got every single one right. My Wisconsin pick somehow was wrong.
Right, that's what sank you.
That's what sank me there. And Aaron was feeling it. He went with Purdue. He went with UCLA.
Mm-hmm.
He went with Nevada.
Mm-hmm.
You were feeling the underdogs.
Sometimes you got to vibe. You
I
know,
get
sometimes you gotta lose to win.
Well, in this week, we don't differ very much.
Right.
Besides, I went with Rutgers,
Mm-hmm.
and then
You went with Minnesota. You went with Oregon State.
yeah, that's it. That those are the differences. Well, yeah, the Hythloday's the odd one on the.
I was about to say you and I are right together, except for the one.
We are ride or die with Oregon State. Basically, I'd have to look at it. Yeah, I mean, I went with. Well, this ain't interesting, but we'll
I
find
didn't
out
pick
the
Rutgers.
results next week.
Yep.
Rutgers is gonna win it all, baby.
Nah.
You know that Bryce Betcher is not the only local boy on Oregon. You know,
Oh, who's
right?
I should.
He's not even. He's not even the only white kid from Eugene, right? Patrick Herbert, for example.
Oh, Patrick Herbert. That's
Eugene.
right. That's
Charlie
right.
Pickard, who's been snapping the ball.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Charlie Pickard. What other
of
whites
course.
we got?
I mean, there's a whole ton who are walk-ons, but like,
yeah, I forgot.
You know,
other
guys who made appearances in this game against Oregon State, who are from the state of Oregon, include the tight end AJ Pugliano, Justice Lowe, who's a wide receiver, Marion Winston, who's an outside linebacker, had a great game, and of course, hero of the game, Atticus Sappington.
Right, I was about to say Sappington is also from.
Oh, the reigning Booze. I love that he was a team captain for this game.
Mm-hmm.
It's all beautiful. It's truly wonderful, guys. We won a game. We beat the Beavers. Hythloday, thank you so much for once again joining us. Everyone, go over to Addicted to Quack. Read the duct tapes. Read all the articles. They're all wonderful over there. Really interesting stuff. Follow them on Twitter at Hythloday1, HYTHLODAY, the number 1. Follow us on Twitter as well at Quack12 Podcast. Go over to Apple Podcasts. Give us a review. Leave us 5 stars. Over on our Patreon, yes, we have been talking about the toilet bowl. You can watch the second half with us. It's a really fun one, actually. It's a really good one. And we'll be posting a new video very shortly up there. Aaron, take us out with some words of wisdom. Give us something. We're going into the bye.
We're going into the bye week. So here's what's happening, potato salads.
Ooh.
Like we figured out earlier.
Mm-hmm.
We know we have figured out the problem this week. We are resolving it. Next week we're coming back, and it's a 12-0 season the rest of the way. It's just done and done. This turkey is smoked, baby. Let's get ready for Thanksgiving.
Okay. We're looking ahead a little bit. I like it. I mean, it's just usually when we're playing Oregon State, it would be around Thanksgiving.
Right, exactly. So
good point. And we'll catch y'all next week.
Hey, hold on. If I can plug something,
please.
Addicted to Quack, as always, a full spectrum Oregon site. We cover everybody. If you put on a duck uniform, we're a serious journalism outlet. Tristan put up a wonderful film study article on the Oregon State game this morning on Tuesday. I hired 2 new writers this off season. We keep getting budget bumps because we get more readership. We're up to 2 articles every day.
Dang.
Yeah, and we have press credentials to go to pretty much every game. In fact, our man in the booth at both Autzen Stadium got credentials to go to Reeser, and I had him take photos of what the press boxes look like, and an article that's going to be going up shortly at Addicted to Quack compares what you get at the press boxes at Autzen and Reeser, and let me tell you, that film clip analysis is quite compelling. You're not
I have
want
to
tells
say,
you all you need to know. Tells you all you need to know.
Yeah,
I have to say, I'm a little shocked because I do remember the past editor of Addicted to Quack,
Oh no.
I was haranguing constantly to get press passes because obviously that's something that should be gettable.
It was impossible
And
back
yet-
then. It was
Oh yeah, back
impossible
in our
back then.
I wonder
Everything
why.
was different. All right. Yeah. Well, that sounds like the kind of hard-hitting journalism the Quack 12 is all about. So we will really be pushing that. We may
It's
have a
like-
whole episode.
It's like when the National Lampoon is handed over to the Wall Street Journal, and then all of a sudden everybody's like,
All
"Oh,
right. So we will see y'all next week. We'll see you over on Addicted to Quack. We'll see you over at the Quack 12 podcast. Bye-bye.
bye bye, quack quack."
Quack.